right, well, this week we've got this one from Sean, who is in Vernal, outside Australia. I was sad to see no mention of the passing of Ralph H. Baer on the latest episode of Good Game during its catch-up segment in the news section. Truly, if the other deaths mentioned during that segment were worth discussing, then a pioneer who innovated so much during his lifetime and the early years of the gaming industry, a man who practically created the gaming industry, should also be mentioned. I hope to hear talk about Ralph Baer on an episode of Good Game sometime soon. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your letter, Sean, and yes, that was an unfortunate oversight. Ralph Baer passed away in early December last year, just as Good Game was wrapping up for 2014. So it was entirely our mistake to not report it in our first episode back.
Indeed. So let's take this opportunity to talk about Ralph's considerable accomplishments and contributions to the industry. As you said, Sean, without any exaggeration, he practically created the gaming industry and is widely considered the father of video games.
But first, some background on the man himself. Ralph was born in 1922 to a Jewish family in Germany, and in 1933, fearing persecution under Hitler's regime, they wisely fled to New York.
During his early life stateside, he studied electronics, but went on to serve in the US military for several years during World War II. After returning, he furthered his studies and went on to become one of the first people to ever graduate with a Bachelor of Science in Television Engineering.
In the early 1950s, witnessing the widespread adoption of TV sets, he had the radical idea for creating a device that would allow people to interact with the TV screens in their own homes and play games on them.
But the company he was working for at the time wasn't interested in his idea. It wasn't until almost 15 years later, in 1966, that he was given the funding to create a prototype, which became known as the Brown Box, the very first home console.
He also invented the first light gun to go along with it, and several basic games like football and tennis, but many television manufacturers still weren't interested in the prototype, except for the Magnavox company. Magnavox licensed the technology and renamed the box the Magnavox Odyssey, the first commercially available console.
Odyssey, a new dimension for your television.
The Odyssey would go on to become a moderate success, selling several 100,000 units. But importantly, it inspired other gaming giants such as Nolan Bushnell, who took the idea of tennis and created Pong, which helped to popularize arcade gaming.
Over the years that followed, Baer continued working on games, but focused more on electronic devices, eventually creating an icon of the 80s, the colour and sound matching game Simon.
Light the lights that Simon lights, or he'll tell you that you're wrong.
We really only had time to touch on some of his more influential achievements, but it's clear even from that small snapshot of his life that he was hugely important in kickstarting this industry that we all love so much.
On the shoulders of giants we stand, Hicks.
Indeed, and of course our thoughts and condolences go out to his family, friends and colleagues. And from the very bottom of our hearts, we thank you, Ralph.
Okay, who else would like to play? Why don't you come on and play the game?